If you grew up in the late 90s, Hey Arnold was probably a big part of your after-school routine. The show was famous for its quirky characters, city adventures, and surprisingly deep stories about friendship, family, and growing up. But there's a story that's been whispered about for years, a story that never made it to TV. Fans call it the forgotten episode, and those who claim to know the truth say it's the one episode that was never meant to be found. I first heard about it from a friend who was obsessed with lost media and urban legends. He told me that the forgotten episode was more than just a rumor. According to him, it was a real episode created during the show's original run, but pulled before it ever aired. The story goes that the episode was discovered on an old VHS tape, hidden in a box of production materials that was supposed to be destroyed. Only a handful of people have ever seen it, and those who have say it's nothing like the rest of the series. The episode supposedly starts with a normal day in the city. Arnold wakes up in his room at the boarding house, the sun shining through the window, the sounds of the city drifting in from outside. He gets dressed, grabs his football-shaped cap, and heads downstairs for breakfast. The animation is a little rougher than usual, the colors slightly off, but at first it just feels like an early draft. Grandpa Phil is reading the paper, Grandma is humming to herself, and everything seems normal. But as the episode goes on, things start to get strange. Arnold leaves the boarding house and walks through the city, but the streets are empty. There are no cars, no people, no sounds except for his own footsteps. He calls out for Gerald, for Helga, for anyone, but there's no answer. The city feels bigger than usual, the buildings taller, the shadows longer. The familiar music is replaced by a low, unsettling hum. Arnold wanders through the empty streets, growing more and more anxious. He tries to go to the park, to the school, to all the places he usually hangs out, but everywhere is deserted. The colors become more washed out, the animation more jittery. Arnold's voice grows quieter, and his footsteps echo in the silence. He starts to run, calling out for his friends, but the only answer is the hum and the sound of his own breathing. Eventually, Arnold finds himself back at the boarding house. The door is open, but the inside is dark and empty. He calls out for his grandparents, but there's no response. The episode lingers on Arnold's face as he stands in the doorway, his eyes wide and scared. The screen flickers, and for a moment, you can see the other characters, Gerald, Helga, Harold, Phoebe, standing in the shadows, their faces blank and expressionless. Then, the screen cuts to static, just for a second, but long enough to make you wonder if the tape is broken. When the picture returns, Arnold is still in the boarding house. But now the rooms are filled with shadows that seem to move on their own. The furniture is covered in dust, the windows are boarded up, and the familiar warmth of the house is gone. Arnold wanders from room to room, calling out for anyone, but the only response is the low hum that's been building since the episode began. He finds himself in the hallway outside his own room. The door is closed, and there's a strange symbol drawn on it in chalk, something that looks almost like a spiral, but not quite. Arnold hesitates, then slowly pushes the door open. Inside, the room is empty except for his bed and a small old-fashioned TV sitting on the floor. The screen is filled with static, but as Arnold steps closer, the static clears for a moment, showing flashes of his friends' faces. Gerald looking worried, Helga with tears in her eyes, Grandpa Phil shaking his head. Arnold sits on the bed, staring at the TV. The hum grows louder, and the images on the screen become more distorted. The faces of his friends start to blur, their eyes turning black, their mouths opening in silent screams. Arnold covers his ears, but the hum only gets louder, vibrating through the room. The camera zooms in on Arnold's face, his eyes wide with fear, and for a split second, you can see the reflection of the spiral symbol in his pupils. The screen flickers again, and suddenly Arnold is outside, standing in the middle of the empty city. The sky is gray, the buildings are crumbling, and the streets are filled with fog. Arnold calls out one last time, his voice echoing through the emptiness. The only answer is the hum, now so loud it drowns out everything else. According to the legend, the episode doesn't end there. Some people claim that if you keep watching, you'll hear faint whispers in the static, voices calling Arnold's name, begging him to come back. Others say the screen flickers one last time, showing a single frame of Arnold standing alone in the fog, his face pale and his eyes empty. The credits roll in silence with no music, just the low hum that's been building since the beginning. I tried to find proof of the forgotten episode, a clip, a screenshot, anything. But every time I got close, the trail went cold. Lost media forums are filled with people searching for the episode, trading stories and theories, but no one has ever produced a full recording. Some claim to have found old VHS tapes at garage sales or in thrift stores, but the footage is always corrupted, the audio warped and filled with static. I kept searching, hoping to find someone who could confirm the story, or at least explain where it came from. I messaged old animators, scoured fan forums, and even reached out to people who claimed to have worked on Hey Arnold in the early days. Most never replied, or just laughed off my questions. But one night, I got an anonymous email. The subject line was blank, and the message was short. Don't look for it. Some episodes are forgotten for a reason. Attached was a single image, a blurry screenshot of Arnold in the fog, his face half lit by the gray sky. The quality was terrible, but I recognized the scene from the stories. In the background, the buildings seemed to lean in, and if you looked closely, you could just make out the outline of Gerald and Helga, their faces blank and their eyes wide. I stared at the image for a long time, feeling a chill run down my spine. Was it real, or just a clever fake? I couldn't tell, but I saved it anyway. After that, the dreams started. I'd find myself wandering through the empty city, the streets silent and the buildings looming overhead. I'd hear the hum from the episode, growing louder and louder until it drowned out everything else. Sometimes I'd see Arnold standing in the fog, his eyes empty, his voice echoing as he called for his friends. Other times, I'd see the spiral symbol drawn on doors and windows, glowing faintly in the darkness. I'd wake up sweating, the sound of static still ringing in my ears. I stopped searching for the episode after that. Every time I thought about it, I'd feel a wave of unease, as if something was warning me to leave it alone. But the story kept spreading. More people posted about their own experiences, strange dreams, corrupted files, TVs turning on by themselves late at night, always to a screen filled with static and the faint hum of the forgotten episode. Some fans started to believe that the forgotten episode wasn't just a lost cartoon, but a kind of curse, a story that infects anyone who hears about it, making them see things that aren't there. dream things they can't explain. Others said it was a metaphor for loneliness, a way for the show's creators to explore the fear of being left behind. But no one could explain the details that kept cropping up. The static, the spiral symbol, the sense that something was watching from the shadows. Now, whenever I see an old VHS tape or a rerun of Hey Arnold, I feel a little uneasy. I remember the stories, the image in that email, the dreams that still haunt me. And I wonder if the episode is still out there, waiting for someone new to find it. I wish I could say the nightmares faded, that the story of the forgotten episode eventually became just another creepy internet rumor. But the truth is, it's always there, lurking in the back of my mind. Sometimes when I'm alone in a quiet room, I'll hear the faint hum of static, or the echo of Arnold's voice calling for his friends. I'll turn on the TV late at night and find the screen flickering, and for a split second, I'll see the foggy city, the spiral symbol glowing on a distant wall. I've learned to live with it, in a way. I don't talk about the episode anymore, and I avoid anything to do with lost media, but every so often someone will bring it up, a friend, a stranger online, even a random post on social media. The details are always the same. The lost episode, the static, the spiral, the empty city, the sense that something is watching from the shadows. And every time, I feel that old fear creeping back in, cold and sharp as the sound of a city gone silent. Some people say the episode is still out there, hidden on an old VHS tape in someone's attic, or buried deep in the archives of a forgotten server. Others believe it's just a story, a cautionary tale about the things we lose as we grow up, and the memories that fade with time. But those of us who've seen the images, who've heard the hum in the dark, know better. We know that some stories have a way of sticking with you, of changing the way you see the world. Now, whenever I see Arnold on TV, I hesitate before watching. I remember the empty city, the spiral, the way Arnold's eyes seemed to reflect something I couldn't quite name. I wonder if the episode is still waiting for someone new to find it, someone new to carry the story forward. And I wonder if somewhere out there, Arnold is still wandering those empty streets, calling out for friends who never answer. So if you ever hear about the forgotten episode, or find yourself tempted to search for lost episodes late at night, remember my story. Some things are better left lost. Some episodes are better left unwatched. And some memories, no matter how curious you are better left alone. Because once you've heard the hum, once you've seen those empty eyes in the fog, you'll never look at Hey Arnold or your own childhood the same way again. I still get messages from people who stumble across the legend for the first time. They always start the same way. Curiosity, a little skepticism, maybe even a joke about how a cartoon could be so unsettling. But after a while, the tone changes. They ask if I've ever really seen the episode, if the dreams ever stop, if the feeling of being watched ever goes away. I never know what to tell them. I want to say it's all just a story, that it can't hurt you if you don't believe in it. But I know better. Sometimes I wonder if the episode is more than just a lost piece of animation. Maybe it's a kind of test, a way to see who's willing to look too closely, to dig too deep. Maybe it's a warning, a reminder that some things are meant to stay hidden. Or maybe it's just a story that got out of control, spreading from one person to the next, growing darker and more twisted with every retelling. But every so often I'll hear from someone who claims they've found a copy, an old tape, a corrupted file, a link that only works once before disappearing forever. They always say the same thing. The episode is worse than they imagined. The colors are wrong, the sounds are distorted, and Arnold's eyes haunt their dreams for weeks afterward. Some say they can't watch Hey Arnold anymore, that the theme song makes them uneasy. Others say they hear a faint hum of static when they turn off the TV at night. I try not to think about it too much. I keep my lights on, my curtains closed, and my TV unplugged when I'm not using it. I avoid lost media forums, and I don't go looking for stories about cursed episodes. But the legend of the forgotten episode is always there, waiting in the background, a shadow at the edge of my vision. If you're reading this, maybe you're curious too. Maybe you'll think it's just a story, something to laugh about with your friends. But if you ever find yourself alone at night, with the sound of static in your ears and the feeling that someone is watching you from the dark, remember what I've told you. Some episodes are better left lost. Some stories are better left untold. And if you ever see Arnold standing alone in a foggy city, his eyes wide and empty, the spiral symbol glowing behind him, turn off the TV. Walk away. Don't look back. Because in the forgotten episode, the real nightmare isn't what you see on the screen. It's what follows you when the episode ends. I wish I could say there's a way to break the spell, to shake off the feeling that the forgotten episode leaves behind. But the truth is, once you know the story, it's hard to forget. It lingers in the quiet moments, in the flicker of a screen, in the uneasy silence that settles just before you fall asleep. I've learned to live with it, to keep my distance from old cartoons and lost media. But the memory is always there, waiting. Sometimes I'll catch myself glancing at the TV, half expecting to see Arnold's eyes staring back at me from the static. Other times, I'll hear a faint hum, like the one that filled the background of that episode, and I'll freeze, heart pounding, until I convince myself it's just the refrigerator or the pipes in the wall. But deep down, I know better. I know that some stories have a way of reaching out, of finding you no matter how far you run. I've talked to others who feel the same. Some have tried to track down the episode, convinced that if they can just see it for themselves, the mystery will finally make sense. But every time, the trail goes cold. The files are corrupted, the tapes are blank, the links disappear as soon as you click them. It's as if the episode doesn't want to be found, or maybe as if it's waiting for the right person to find it. So if you ever hear about the forgotten episode, or if you find yourself drawn to stories about lost episodes and hidden secrets, remember this: curiosity can be dangerous. Some things are better left alone, no matter how tempting they seem. And if you ever see a flash of static and a pair of wide, empty eyes in the corner of your screen, don't look too closely. Don't listen to the hum. Don't try to remember the details, because some episodes aren't just stories. Some episodes are warnings. And some nightmares, once they find you, never really let you go. So turn off the TV, close your laptop, and let the story fade. Trust me, there are some secrets you don't want to uncover, and the forgotten episode is one of them.